Okay, I think I'm live. And hello, everyone. Now, while I'm waiting for people to come in, I'm just going to make sure the levels are all right. We'll carry on soon. Tonight, I want to share with you something that is, well, relatively near and dear to my heart, I suppose. And that's the art industry and just art in general. I've always been thinking my entire life about what art is, um, what its purpose is in the world, its uses, and its usefulness in helping people focus and understand the world around them, I suppose. For me, art has always been something that has helped me translate my thoughts into something visual so I can see what I'm thinking. It's kind of the best way to have a personal self-reflection. And that's one useful tool for art. But the art industry, or the ideas of an objective standard of art, which people go to galleries to marvel over or be inspired by, or something that makes them think something they've never thought before, really provocative, fantastic, detailed, skilled artwork, the type of stuff in the galleries. That's not the same as some artist making something very personal to themselves for a therapeutic use. And I've been aware of the two. I've always kept the two separate myself and my artistic idea. So I have my artwork, which is for me, that I make personally, my own spare time. But then there's the artwork you create to present to the public. And from my perspective, how I've always seen it is it's a competitive market, essentially. And the point of art is to progress, as it has done for thousands of years, especially in the West, into these beautiful, detailed masterpieces that the masters can create. Well, new artists are supposed to aspire to do better. So the standard is high, and only the truly exceptional in their field of skill, whatever that is, sculpture, painting, film, writing, poetry, drawing, and music. The skill speaks for itself, and you know when something has a high standard of beauty in it. It's objectionable. It's there. It's not subjective. I think we see the same thing when we look out in nature. We look out in nature and we see that, this is the creation, I suppose, and what a wonderful thing it is. As somebody who's explored psychedelic realms, what I gain from that, if anything, even though I don't do it anymore, is that the world truly is a beautiful place if you just pay attention. The design is unbelievable, impossible. No, it's a miracle like this is here at all. But when I look out at the world, I see God's artwork, and that's all we can ever really, that's the highest standard. That there is this thing, and when we look out at a lake, on a sunset, on a lake somewhere, or we look at nature like insects and animals, and birds and the sky and the clouds, and we look at these things and we're all inspired. We see beauty when we see it. However, this is the problem, I guess, the conspiracy I want to get into, is that art standards have dropped significantly. It's become a freak show. This is really disheartening for me as I went out into the art industry to do my degree in art. I'd always maintained high standards for myself in technical skills of how to paint and how to draw details, traditional details. Because I thought, well, if I'm going to go out into the world as an artist, I need to keep these skills high so I can compete. And, artists, few and far between, get noticed. It's just a fact of the industry. And, to really stand out, you have to do something better than what's been before. But that's not at all what happened or what I saw. I went into a place, an environment where people are encouraged to do worse than from my opinion, worse than what's come before us. And that's been applauded as beautiful and art because it's subjective to one's personal opinion, because there are no objective standards for what is high quality art anymore. It just doesn't exist in this new world we kind of live in. And I was shocked and appalled that this is what I'm paying for, for my education, for my degree. And I'm basically going to leave an expensive piece of paper that says I am on par and equal to these other people who pass the course, who can't draw or paint, but they can certainly put a lot of rubbish together in a pile and talk a lot of nonsense about it. It hurts, it's something personal to me, this whole subject. So what I want to do is just explore and show you some videos I've seen over the past few years of researching these things. And maybe these are the recent ones I've seen, but I've followed the art industry and its degradation into postmodern neo-Marxist nonsense my entire life, you know. And it's not something I've touched on the channel, but I will say the first ever videos on this channel was a conversation between me and an Oxford student who's a very close friend of mine who was studying English language and literature at Oxford University. I was doing my fine art degree in Lincoln. And our first conversation on the channel, which is uploaded, it's so you can listen to the whole thing. I've broken it up into sections. It's just about this. Arts has gone terrible, and it seems to be because of postmodernism. And I couldn't quite articulate my thoughts about the whole situation then, like I could now. I've learned a lot since then. But I knew the problem was there in 2014. And it seems now in 2018, 2017, people are finally speaking out about this problem that's got deep into my, you know, psyche, messing with me, you know, in terms of my own creativity and what passivity of, well, what's the point in trying to compete in a market where my ideas won't be appreciated anyway. And the environment of the art gallery is too pretentious for my liking, and I can't really get along with these ultra-liberal types that just swarm these, well, the galleries, sadly. So I'm going to show you some videos I've been watching. Let's screen share here. And the first one is by Paul Joseph Watson. I'm sure we all know who this guy is. Yeah, now say what you want about InfoWars and Paul Joseph Watson, whether he's some kind of shill or whatever. When it comes to the subject of modern art, this is the comedian pointing out the obvious, and I like the way he does it. And I actually don't disagree with any of the points he makes in this video. He makes it very clear in a funny way what's wrong with art. You know, look at what's selling, and he gives the kind of conspiratorial truth here about how there's a lot of money involved in shifting around multi-million-pound pieces of artwork. And it's definitely a corrupt industry. So let's just listen to this, and then I have quite a few videos I want to go through today, and then we'll open up to questions at the end.
Being just sold for $450 million. But what you may have missed at the same auction was the sale of this monstrosity. How much do you reckon? Did somebody buy it for $20 for a laugh? No. $46 million. $46 million for something that resembles what would probably happen if a 2-year-old toddler was left on its own with a bottle of ketchup. Listen to the absolute tripe they spout to describe it.
Red is the colour of wine, but also of blood, and these canvases encompass both a sensual pleasure and violent debauchery associated with the god. This contrast is echoed in the painting's combination of euphoric winks that soar upwards of vermilion floods of paint that ooze and cascade down the canvas. The unfurling gestures of these paintings were made like Henry Matisse's works in old age, with a brush affixed to the end of a pole, which lends them their vitality and scale.
What a load of bollocks. That gibberish is another example of obscurantism, a rhetorical device modern art snobs use to disguise the fact that their art is completely meaningless. It's just a fancy way of confusing people so their initial discernment is temporarily suspended, making them afraid of criticizing such art for fear of appearing uncultured or ignorant. In reality, their first instinct is totally correct. The vast majority of modern art is talentless trash. Sometimes it's literally trash, and the entire industry is a price-fixing scam, where galleries and auction houses in coordination with elitist collectors keep values grossly inflated. Collectors also gift crappy inflated modern art as a charitable donation so they can avoid paying tax. Others buy shitty modern art simply as a way to launder money. It took Da Vinci 3 years to paint The Last Supper. The bloke who did this just stuck a brush to a pole, dipped it in paint, went like that a few times, and hey presto, that'll be $46 million, please. He spent just as much time thinking up a name for it, and after I'm sure what was an intense period of internal debate, he eventually settled on Untitled. Oh, but wait, it's part of a series, because it really looks like a lot of forethought went into the other one, given that it looks almost identical. The Guardian called the artist Cy Twombly, quote, the most intelligent and emotionally eloquent artist of our age. Yeah, our age is shit, isn't it? Here's another spectacular work from the most intelligent and emotionally eloquent artist of our age. What endless list of titles did Twombly agonize over before naming this one? Oh, it's called Untitled. Again, I call it testing the biro pen. What makes this all the more ironic is that Twombly was obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci, which is like the schlub who designed this Being obsessed with Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the age of Trump derangement syndrome, has only intensified the belief that anything can be considered art if it serves to amplify some demented far-left political cliche.
The carpets, if you look very closely, you see? It's made up of thousands and thousands of African babies.
Oh, it's like he's literally walking on African babies.
Yes.
And like, so he's like the West, and the African babies are like Africa.
That's a very good interpretation.
Remember the Black Lives Matter supporting performance artist who twerked a giant fat ass once for every time an African American was killed by a cop? Yeah, that was my favourite. Now, a transgender artist has collected 200 gallons of urine to protest Trump. Yeah, stockpiling piss isn't art. It's a mental illness. This artist embarked on a, quote, observation of zeitgeist through the so-called thanato-political dimension of contemporary biopolitical practices. What actually happened is that she breastfed her own dogs, which is closer to animal abuse than it is art. But who am I to judge? This genius didn't even bother slapping a few splodges of paint on a canvas and instead just literally wrote the words, please imagine a boring abstract painting. But why even bother writing anything when you can just glue cardboard boxes to the wall? Having already blown $500,000 on a blue ring, Calgary wasn't finished yet.
Artists always say their aim is to move people with their work. Well, a massive new sculpture in Calgary is definitely moving a lot of people there into writing hate mail.
Just off the Trans-Canada Highway stands Calgary's latest public art installation, Beaufort Towers. The project cost $500,000.
The Museum of Modern Art in New York, MoMA, remains as cancerous as ever. This piece of art celebrates, quote, downtown counterculture. Exactly what's artistic or counterculture about some pouting soy boy flouncing around in front of the camera? Your guess is as good as mine.
So even like the reductive nature of this, like his color scheme is so fascinating.
Yeah, his color scheme is so fascinating. He's literally used one colour. Respondents to the Twitter thread reacted with their own pieces, all of which were actually more intricate than the dross hanging in the gallery.
Share photos on Instagram showing how you interpret the hijab as part of a modern wardrobe.
Yeah, the hijab is so modern that women all over the Middle East who refuse to wear it or simply let it slip are subjected to abuse, beatings, imprisonment and death. So modern, so progressive. Next up at MoMA, share photo showing how you interpret the chastity belt as part of a modern wardrobe. But given how insufferable boring and pointless their exhibitions are, it was thoughtful of MoMA to provide this jigsaw puzzle for visitors. Oh no, that's a piece of art too. No, an unfinished jigsaw puzzle is not art. It's an unfinished jigsaw puzzle.
If people say it's art, it's art.
Well, I think that's absolute rubbish.
So you could say anything is art.
You just have.
You could say everything is art. But the point is that
It's like shoe art.
if you say it is, I have to then judge it on those terms.
I think that's a totally ridiculous argument.
Well,
I never heard anything more ludicrous in my life.
Well, it's sort of
Replica sports shirts. They're not art. They're replica sports shirts. Just because you moved them to a different location and devoted a poncy, pretentious monologue to them doesn't suddenly make them art. They're still replica sports shirts. Just like sticking a piece of plastic shit through a toilet roll holder doesn't change the fact that it's just a piece of plastic shit stuck through a toilet roll holder. Art that has to be in a gallery to be art isn't art. Some kids left a pineapple in the middle of an exhibition and people mistook it for art, thinking that everything is subjective, that there are no objective standards of beauty, and that anything can be considered art isn't a refined opinion. It's dumb. If you think that, you're not sophisticated. You're a clown. Students are now being taught that believing in objective standards of beauty in art is cultural fascism.
Beauty has fallen into disrepute. For some reason, people have marginalized the pursuit of beauty. There's been a huge cultural shift, an almost deliberate attempt to expel beauty from the place in human life that it naturally occupies, which is the center. The message that art has been perpetrating for the last 50 or even 100 years, that in the end, that our aspirations to be something better are all self-deception and delusion. Of course, there is natural beauty. There's the beauty of the human face and the human form. There's the beauty of animals and the beauty of landscape. Everybody is aware of that. It stands there as an independent witness to the meaning of the universe.
What kind of damage is all this doing to the fabric of Western civilization? 700 years after the start of the Renaissance, and this is where we've arrived. If this is what we call high culture, an endless parade of meaningless debris that promises nothing and delivers nothing, what does this say about our society? What does this say about our contribution to the grand tapestry of mankind's collective achievement? What does this say about how we've let these culture vultures tarnish and defile the legacy of beauty handed down by our ancestors? We mustn't be afraid to loudly proclaim the emperor has no clothes. We mustn't be afraid to call out abstract modern art for precisely what it is: a wretched, ugly manifestation of postmodernism, an insult to our heritage, a desecration of our human potential.
All right. Now, you know, that's Paul Joseph Watson's way of saying something like that. And we know what he's like. But he has a solid point. You know, the objective standards of beauty have vanished out of the art world. Now anything can pass as art. That's basically his point. And, you know, that's pretty much what I saw too. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It all started with Duchamp in like the 50s and his Dadaist movement, where he put a urinal in a gallery and it shocked everybody because he called it art, you know. And then it was funny because it had never been done before and it was kind of satire. But man, did things get out of hand from there. Now, literally, as I'll get into soon, one artist called Martin Creed scrumpled up a piece of A4 paper and put it in a gallery and said it was art. Among many other things, which, like I said, I went to one of his exhibitions. I'll show you some pictures from that event. But it was ridiculous, you know. It's disgusting, actually. It makes me. I was angry being there. I actually got into an argument with somebody at that gallery about objective standards, and they were full on nihilistic. There are no standards. It's all about your feelings and opinion. Therefore, no one is right, and therefore, the most ugliest thing can be considered beautiful because it's beautiful to somebody. Even though, you know, in the past it was all about expertise and skill. So I want to show you another video now, which kind of touches on this point about the history of art and the standards. And I thought this guy put it really well, probably better than I ever could in my tired state at 1 in the morning. But let's screen share this again and I'll bring it up. And I'm sure you guys will enjoy this.
The Mona Lisa, the Pietà, the girl with a pearl earring. For a score of centuries, artists enriched Western society with their works of astonishing beauty. The Night Watch, the Thinker, the Rocky Mountains. Master after master, from Leonardo to Rembrandt to Bierstadt, produced works that inspired, uplifted, and deepened us. And they did this by demanding of themselves the highest standards of excellence, improving upon the work of each previous generation of masters, and continuing to aspire to the highest quality attainable. But something happened on the way to the 20th century. The profound, the inspiring, and the beautiful were replaced by the new, the different, and the ugly. Today, the silly, the pointless, and the purely offensive are held up as the best of modern art. Michelangelo carved his David out of a rock. The Los Angeles County Museum of Art just offers us a rock. A rock. All 340 tons of it. That's how far standards have fallen. How did this happen? How did the 1,000-year ascent towards artistic perfection and excellence die out? It didn't. It was pushed out. Beginning in the late 19th century, a group dubbed the Impressionists rebelled against the French Académie des Beaux-Arts and its demand for classical standards. Whatever their intentions, the new modernists sowed the seeds of aesthetic relativism, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder mentality. Today, everybody loves the Impressionists. And as with most revolutions, the first generation or so produced work of genuine merit. Monet, Renoir, and Degas still maintained elements of disciplined design and execution. But with each new generation, standards declined until there were no standards. All that was left was personal expression. The great art historian Jacob Rosenberg wrote that quality in art is not merely a matter of personal opinion, but to a high degree objectively traceable. But the idea of a universal standard of quality in art is now usually met with strong resistance, if not open ridicule. How can art be objectively measured unchallenged? In responding, I simply point to the artistic results produced by universal standards compared to what is produced by relativism. The former gave the world the birth of Venus and the dying Gaul, while the latter has given us the Holy Virgin Mary, fashioned with cow dung and pornographic images, and Petra, the prize-winning sculpture of a policewoman squatting and urinating, complete with a puddle of synthetic urine. Without aesthetic standards, we have no way to determine quality or inferiority. Here's a test I give my graduate students, all talented and well-educated. Please analyze this Jackson Pollock painting and explain why it is good. It is only after they give very eloquent answers that I inform them that the painting is actually a close-up of my studio apron. I don't blame them. I would probably have done the same, since it's nearly impossible to differentiate between the two. And who will determine quality is another challenge I'm given. If we are to be intellectually honest, we all know of situations where professional expertise is acknowledged and depended upon. Take figure skating in the Olympics, where artistic excellence is judged by experts in the field. Surely we would flinch at the contestant who indiscriminately threw himself across the ice and demanded that his routine be accepted as being as worthy of value as that of the most disciplined skater. Not only has the quality of art diminished, but also the subject matter has gone from the transcendent to the trashy. Where once artists applied their talents to scenes of substance and integrity from history, literature, religion, mythology, etc., many of today's artists merely use their art to make statements, often for nothing more than shock value. Artists of the past also made statements at times, but never at the expense of the visual excellence of their work. It's not only artists who are at fault. It is equally the fault of the so-called art community, the museum heads, gallery owners, and the critics who encourage and financially enable the production of this rubbish. It is they who champion graffiti and call it genius, promote the scatological and call it meaningful. It is they who, in reality, are the naked emperors of art. For who else would spend $10 million on a rock and think it is art? But why do we have to be victims of all this bad taste? We don't. By the art we patronize at museums or purchase at galleries, we can make our opinions not only known but felt. An art gallery, after all, is a business like any other. If the product doesn't sell, it won't be made. We can also support organizations like the Art Renewal Center that work to restore objective standards to the art world. And we can advocate the teaching of classical art appreciation in our schools. Let's celebrate what we know is good and ignore what we know is not. By the way, the white background you see behind me is not simply a white graphic backdrop. It is a pure white painting by noted artist Robert Rauschenberg at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. I'm Robert Florzak for Prager University.
What an eloquent man. Fantastic. Now, again, he summarizes the point that there were considered once upon a time objective standards to art. You know, we know beauty when we see it. We know what is good and what is bad. And he says, you know, this was, or should I say, the idea of objective standards in art was pushed out. And you know, being the conspiracy theorist I am, well, that sounds about right to me. It sounds exactly in line with the agenda of what these guys are going for. You know, the hidden powers. You know, the spiritual forces all around us want to get rid of objective standards of beauty. They want to make it so there are no standards. So, you know, there's no good or bad. You know, good and bad is just an opinion based on perspective. What's good to one may be bad to the other person, but what's good to the other person may be bad to another. Therefore, who's to say what is and isn't good and bad? And it's moral relativism, moral relativity. And it's dangerous thinking. It's New Age thinking. And it's antithetical to Western Christian perspectives of morality and law and rule. And you know, the New World Order is going to be based on that principle. You know, it's well, or they'll use that principle to bring destruction onto our culture before building the New World Order, and imposing their own order and law, which certainly won't be what we have established right now in the West as God's law. The Ten Commandments is the basic principle. So you know, this attack on art is not just simply art and its culture. It's an attack on all forms of art. So that includes the music industry, you know, and literature and film and theatre, writing. You know, every form of art is affected by this lowering of standards and a degradation, basically, of beauty. And that reflects on our culture. I mean, I've always believed, this is my opinion, what an artist is. You know, artists are the people who document the truth about the now and people in history, just like we do now. When we want to know the truth about how a certain people were once in the past in a specific civilization, we look at the artwork those peoples made in that time period, because that gives us an insight into the way they saw things and how they expressed themselves and the things they took pleasures in, and the morality is and deep psyches are embedded in these representations of the artwork they created. So it really gives us a deep perspective on the type of civilization we would have been dealing with. Now think about that now, the type of art people are making now, those coming out of the universities and being told, you know, that there are no objective standards of beauty. Those who win the Tate Awards are those who put a bed in their gallery. You can be that person too. You don't have to know how to paint or draw or know any technical physical skills anymore. You can still be a famous artist by doing this instead, you know, and having no skills. And well, that's if that's how we are going to be viewed by those in the future, it's a sad look. We're not going to look very good to these people. And what art is reflecting back out right now about what our culture is terrifying. And you know, in the conspiracy world, we do nothing but look at the symbolism in modern artwork, music videos, for example, films. You know, we see where it's going and the focus on the bad, you know, death, pain, misery, self, narcissism, you know, ego, revenge, wrath, power. These are the symbols that we deal with now. Sex as well, strong symbolic symbol. So we seem like a degenerate society by the standards of our artwork right now, because we have no objective standards for our art. You know, we live in Europe anyway. We live in the most aesthetically beautiful places that have ever been built on this earth. I mean, the architecture that varies vastly throughout the landscape of Europe is magnificent, so detailed, because people cared about that then. It was something that, it was a big deal. You know, we had to, the city is a reflection of us, you know, and God, in that sense, that people had religious roots more so in the past. So they wouldn't allow those standards. So we can see that in the amazing cathedrals that were built throughout the history, you know, and just the way homes are and stylized in like a place in Venice in Italy would look completely different from a place in Amsterdam or in Norway or Finland, but they will look beautiful nonetheless, and they have their own aesthetically pleasing image. Now we have brutalist architecture, which is minimalist and disgusting, made of concrete with no standards. It's all about usefulness, and you don't need aesthetics. So our cities reflect this degradation too now. And like I said, what are we going to be seen as? What is the Western world, you know, or even just the whole culture of the world going to be seen as by those in the future when they look back on the past to study us as a culture? I mean, it isn't a pretty image. Now there is someone I've been listening to quite a lot recently. You probably heard of him. Is Jordan Peterson, and he covers a lot of things. But I found something he says about art and artists and the role of artists in society, what it means, you know, and why they're important and what they're for. And I want to show you this so I can explain to you how I can see this is useful to the controllers too, to make what he's about to say happen, or to at least stop what he's about to say from happening. The usefulness of the artist in society. It isn't very useful to the controllers. And let's listen to this and I'll show you now. So let me screen share again here. By the way, I'm aware that it may be jittery to you when you're watching it on the live stream and watching this video back afterwards. That just comes with streaming videos on Google Hangouts. There's nothing I can do about it. I will leave links to these videos in the description after the video if you want to watch it more smoothly and in your own time as well. But here we go.
Culture is postmodernism as destructive in this domain as in politics. Well, that's Michael Bamford. Well, what's the role of art in a healthy culture? Well, the artists articulate, the artists are the people who first articulate the unknown. And so the role of artists in a healthy culture is to bring to public awareness elements of being that have not yet entered the collective consciousness. So you can imagine that we're all living on an island, and many of us are in the center of the island, far enough away so that maybe we can't even see the shoreline and we can't see the ocean. That's where our borders end, but we're distant from. The artists are right on the edge, and they're expanding the landscape. They're moving the culture forward. That's where my metaphor fails, I guess. They're moving the culture forward into the unknown, and they do that by translating what is as of yet unimaginable but sensed into what is at least imaginable and represented in image and drama and literature. And that's the precursor to its full formulation in articulated philosophy and thought. And that's what artists do. They're problem solvers. They're problem detectors and problem solvers. That's what true artists do. And they're always trying to solve problems. There's a great documentary that was made about Picasso, for example, painting. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of it. I think it was made in 1957. It's available on YouTube, and it's in black and white. And Picasso is filmed making a painting on a window so that you can see exactly what it's doing. And you can watch him work with ideas. He paints something in and then he erases it. And, he paints over it, and then he paints again and he paints over it. He moves the figures around on the canvas. It's a window pane, as I said. And you can see him working out problems and solutions to problems using his visual imagination. And the artistic product, the painting, is the consequence of that rather than the aim of it. The aim is to formulate the problems and to work out the solutions, and the artistic product, the painting, is the byproduct of that, not the aim. And so artists move us forward into the unknown, and you can see them doing that in cities because it's the open people, the artists, who go into parts of the cities that have degenerated to some degree back into chaos, and then revitalize them, and they civilize them, and then the less artistic people who are more conventional move in, and that's when you get gentrification and that sort of thing, and that usually chases the artists out, and they go somewhere else cheap and interesting and start the renewal process again. So the thing about artists, and it's a hard thing to balance properly in our culture, is that artists are unbelievably productive economically, but it's very, very hard for them to monetize their productivity. So even though what they produce can be of incalculable value, it's very difficult for them to get any of the economic value that they're produced actually directed towards them. It's a major problem it's a major problem with trade openness as a mode of being in the world. So is postmodernism as destructive in this realm as it is in politics? Postmodernism is perhaps equally destructive in all realms, as far as I can tell, especially when it's allied with neo-Marxism. And those two things, there's no reason they should go hand in hand, because if you're a postmodernist, there's absolutely no reason stemming from your own philosophy that you should ally yourself with the neo-Marxist political outlook. And the fact that those two things are found together almost inevitably indicates to me that postmodernism is the handmaiden of the neo-Marxists rather than the other way around. So in fact, postmodernism is the intellectual front that the neo-Marxists wear or adopt to hide from themselves and other people their true motivations, which are mostly driven by revenge and resentment and the desire to destroy, and a hatred for quality and a hatred for qualitative distinctions, which is dead. It's death. I mean, with young people, you want to say, look, there's not much to you. You're only 20 and you're kind of useless. but that's because you're only 20. You know, that doesn't mean you're not full of potential. That potential needs to manifest itself so that you can turn into something that's of world-beating significance. But in order to tell a young person that credibly, you have to say, look, there are true qualitative distinctions between things, and you're just getting started. There are heights that you can ascend to that are genuinely high, which also means they're above where you are now. But that gives your life, the fact that there are those things to pursue, gives your life deep meaning and significance, and gives your struggle nobility and validity. And the postmodernists, neo-Marxists, as far as I'm concerned, are absolute enemies of qualitative distinctions. And so what they do is destroy everyone's ambition. It's like we're all already as valuable as we're going to get. It's like, okay, well, fine, that's good. We don't have to feel bad about ourselves, but what the hell are we going to do? What are we going to orient ourselves towards? What we want is multiple hierarchies, multiple steep hierarchies of competence that are open in fair competition to everyone. And if we don't have enough hierarchies of competence for everyone, then it's up to the creative people to produce some new ones. It's not like we'll necessarily run out. So,
right. Listen's take on what an artist is. He says an artist is the person that progresses a society, and the artists are the one who explore the unknown territory, as he likes to put it, before the non-artists or the non-creative minds go there. And the artist is the one that tries to make sense of it and communicate that thing to those who don't understand whatever that unexplored idea is. And that's pretty much what I consider myself doing with the conspiracy culture. As an artist, I chose to research this stuff for my degree. It was an unknown territory, and I realized no one else around me seemed to know anything about this stuff. So I'll explore it and try to express that through whatever artistic means I can. And the channel is what it is today from that initial intent. So yeah, I get his opinion there, and it goes hand in hand with what I was saying earlier, that we also document the now for the futures to look back on and analyze, essentially. And what we create in our art will reflect back what we were as a culture. And we should consider ourselves, or we should try to thrive to be the highest possible standards we can, because that's what we came from, and hopefully we should be building on the brilliance that came before in the art world, rather than rejecting it as old-fashioned and useless, and we need to explore these more progressive ideas. And that's also something else he was touching on, that it's this postmodern, everything is permitted type of worldview has melded itself with the neo-Marxist socialists. And these are basically SJWs. So this degradation in the art industry is parallel to the degradation in politics and the rise of this communism, this socialism, and the SJW phenomena of, oversensitive, easily offended liberals who want a strict PC culture on language and control, like the transgender activists, the LGBT community activists, these left-wing liberals who become social Marxist identitarians, who identify with their groups and victimhood within those groups. Well, these are the people that filled the galleries. I've seen it. I grew with them. I learned with them, I made artwork with them, and I get it. And these are the people. And they're being taught these ideologies and these ideas from their postmodern neo-Marxist teachers who were also teaching children, who were trying to teach me as well at university, that, it's all about how you feel, it's all about expression, and there are no standards, and you just need to experiment with things, and, as long as you can explain its deep meaning and feeling to you, then we'll all appreciate it as something beautiful. And I wasn't buying any of it, I was not buying any of it during that time. But that aside, these are the people who are the SJWs protesting Brexit or Trump in the streets, and, alternative conservative right-wing speakers, and etc. These are the ones who basically hate the West, so they're anti-capitalist, and that's a common theme in the art industry too. They're all anti-capitalist, anti-Western communists, basically. And you can see it in the art, you can see it in the galleries. Another thing with the people involved in the art industry, as I've been touching upon, the type of person that gets involved. Now, they have what Jordan Peterson called high in trait openness. You know, they're trusting, they're quite open and extroverts, and, you know, want to make friends and don't want to offend and want to get by as easy as possible. And that's kind of my basic way of being as well. Probably why I'm in the arts and I'm not very good at the science and the math. You know, well, I'm not too bad, but it bores me compared to going down the creative route. We're wired that way. And I'm quite an open person who likes to communicate and talk to people, you know, share ideas. And now these people high in trait openness are too trusting, and often, like I said, they don't want to offend anybody, and they don't really like to critique each other's work, which is what you go to university to do. And this is something that really annoyed me. Even though I was high in this trait openness, I wasn't afraid of confrontation, and I was willing to debate ideas that my peers were not. And it got to a point, and it's a true story, there was a person on my course who was gay. And I'm talking, you know, it's obvious he's gay. He had the lisp and the mince and everything. And no, I'm not stereotyping. It's literally just how he was. And he made no secret about himself being gay as well. You know, he was just the gay guy on our course, I suppose. And I had no problem with him being gay either. No, he wasn't an issue. But I didn't like his artwork. I thought it was terrible. And it was terrible. And for example, we all had to put on this show in our space, and he had created marionettes, like puppets, made out of cardboard, like tubes from the toilet rolls, painted red, and with like masking tape around them. And it was really shoddily done. They weren't very good looking puppets. It's like something a high school student would make when in the art class. They just, you know, that they had to take, but they weren't going to go any further with it when they had the choice. You know, it's that kind of, you know, who isn't into art at all. It looked like something they had made. I was watching this. I said, "So what's this?" I said to him, "So what does it mean? What are you trying to represent here?" Because he had a little his curtain set up, and then he was going to do a puppet show behind this thing for people. I said, "What's it about? What does it mean?" And he said, "Oh, it's about gay people in Russia who are being killed for being gay by white Russian men." I was like, well, fair enough. You know, I get that. That was a hot button topic at the time, I guess, for him, even though I'd only kind of heard about this violence against gay people in Russia is quite prominent. Though I think the only evidence I ever really saw, which isn't evidence, but a glimpse at the idea, was Hosier's music video to Take Me to Church, which is about two gay guys in Russia who got beaten to death. And that was the music video. So maybe he'd seen that music video and it really got to him, and he thought, I have to make artwork about this problem. Anyway, he made these really awful looking marionettes. I said, so how does this thing you've made mean anything at all about Russia? How does it relate to this idea of gay people being killed in Russia? And not only that, I mean, what gives you the right or the ability or the authority to try and communicate such a harsh message through your artwork? Have you ever been persecuted or beaten yourself for being gay? Do you know anybody in Russia, or have you experienced Russian culture and you understand all the ins and outs and the details and aesthetics behind what's going on there and how that's all happening? Do you have the direct experience? And these things combined, do you really have the authority to be talking about such a subject? Is your only reason that you think you can is because you identify with being gay? If that's the case, I don't think that's good enough. That's not a good enough reason for you to talk about that subject matter. You have no relations to gay people being killed in Russia or a real experience to share. And these poorly made paper and papier-mâché marionettes don't link to that idea at all, and they're really poorly made as well. So I don't like your work. I think it's bad. You need to improve and think about it some more. That's a solid critique. I told him straight why his artwork was flawed. And do you know what he did? He went straight to the teacher and he accused me of homophobia. Behind my back, of course. I was told he did this after our talk. He had no answers or replies to me. He just got upset and offended. And I was like, okay, well, you're here to be critiqued. This is what we were told to do. I did what the teacher told me to do. No one else had critiqued anyone else's work or mine. It was all just lovely post-it notes explaining why, you know, they love everyone's work. And it's I didn't want to play that game. I want to be, you know, steel against steel makes the sword sharper, you know. I want to have that clash of ideas with people, but no one wanted to. They were too scared. Anyway, like I said, he went he went straight to the teacher and accused me of being homophobic. It had nothing to do with me being homophobic. It was about the standards of his artwork. I did not think they were good enough. And it upset me to think personally that this person will pass with a degree that's equal to mine, and this is the stuff he's producing. So, you know, I'm sorry that got to me, but you know, paying £40,000 for education is a big deal, and I should probably, you know, pay attention to these sort of details. But no one else seemed to agree with me. A few people did, and nothing came of it because luckily the teacher he went to, or ran, he was really cool, and me and him, we were tight, you know, no problem. We were on a level. We talked all the time. And I think he knew Paul was not being homophobic. That is just not who he is. So luckily, the guy I went to was on my side. Someone was looking out for me, you know. Thank God for that. But other people have not got off so lucky for voicing their opinions. The homophobia card has been played against a lot of people in the modern world, and they haven't got away with it. You know, hate law, hate speech crimes, and things like that are quite tight now. And to do such a thing now would cause PC liberal outrage. You know. I think I was just on the cusp of that before they realized they had so much power to put people in prison for disagreeing with their opinions. So again, by the skin of my teeth. But there's an example I can give from experience of encountering this degradation of art standards, the acceptance of poor quality artwork in the schools, and the indoctrination of liberal postmodern ideologies, moral relativism, you know, the lack of God and objectivity. Now, I got some pictures to show you from a recent exhibition I went to, which shows Martin Creed's work. Martin Creed has won a Tate Award, which is like what is it? I don't know a good comparison for an American award system, but it's the liberal. It's like the MTV award in arts. These are the edgy, on the cusp, progressive artists who get this award, who are breaking boundaries. You know, we've had like transvestites win it. Tracy Emin, most of the young British artists have, and they're a whole troupe on their own, which I might discuss in a separate video. But those people are crazy, and they definitely contributed to the problem. But Martin Creed won one of these awards as well, and he's critically acclaimed. Now we're going to listen to an interview with the guy. I'm going to screen share this with you, and then I'm going to show you an exhibition I went to and the speech that was given before the exhibition opened, and just how pretentious these people are and how ridiculous they are. And I think looking at the man himself first will give you a good impression of just how duped and fooled all these admirers are of his work, we'll say. So I'll screen share this. 1 second. Cool, and we'll bring this up.
Martin Creed is best known for 2 works of art in particular. Work number 850 from 2008, athletes sprinting through Tate Britain every 30 seconds, and from 7 years earlier in 2001. From 7 years earlier, in 2001, which was the year he won the Turner Prize, work number 227, The Lights Going On and Off. Before that, he made a piece called Work Number 88, a sheet of A4 paper crumpled into a ball. That was a sheet of A4 paper crumpled into a ball. Traditionalists hate him, and to the tabloids he seems to represent everything that's wrong about modern art. Yet museums and galleries really rate him, and much of his work proves extremely popular with the public. This year, he's practically taken over Edinburgh with a number of projects. As part of the Edinburgh Art Festival, he has a major exhibition of new and recent work, Down Over Up, at the Fruit Market Gallery.
It's good if it's on for 1 second.
At the Fringe, he has a ballet, work number 1020, being performed at the Traverse Theatre. He has a book being published. Works contains almost all of his output so far, and he's resurfacing the city's famous Scotsman's Steps with a huge array of marbles from all over the world. So is Creed a genius or a prankster? Is it art or anti-art? Is Martin Creed laughing at the world or laughing with it? You love sequences, you love repetition. Here are lots of cacti in a row. It's very, very pleasing.
You know, I like cactuses, but I don't. But I don't.
Who doesn't? This is when they're presented like this.
They look nice, but I don't know which one I prefer. So I made a work with lots of them. Having things in a kind of order like that, to me, that's like a comforting thing to see. You know, I think that because I think that life's like a big messy soup, you know, with everything kind of going in all directions at once and nothing under control really. You know, for me, these works are help me with my messy life. You know. Because it's like a wee bit of order.
Well, this appeals to me. I feel like I've got mild OCD, and this I really like it as a result. Do you neatly fold your t-shirts, or are you?
No, I know, but I wash my hands a lot.
Do you? Right.
Yeah.
What do you call these? Drawings?
What do I? Yeah, colour drawings. I call them just like the colour people. I was kind of just colouring in sheets of paper, and I was thinking, well, you know, I don't know what colours are best, so I thought I could try and buy all possible different pens I could find in London.
Why do you set yourself these tasks that bear, on the face of it, no relation to reality whatsoever?
I want my work to have the whole world in it, although I think it could only ever fail to do that. Maybe a work can make a sort of equivalent of the whole world by having all the different cactuses or all the different colours of pens.
Was the placement of the different sheets and the colours interacting with each other, was that important?
No, well, not really. It's random. I didn't place it.
Really?
Yeah.
Who placed it?
I don't know.
Really? Well, you just gave instructions to someone, and then this is the first time you see it.
It's just supposed to be random. Random in the sense that there is no order, and that they should be mixed up. So I wouldn't, for example, I would not put all the red ones together, because that'd be like, ordering the spectrum or something like that in the light spectrum.
I just have to stop it there. I mean, you do realize he just said he likes to order things like the cactuses. He arranges them in order. And here he's saying, I don't like the order. I want some chaos. I want it all over the place. Now, is that not just perfect of a mind that is possessed by this left-right duality paradigm of moral relativity? He seems like a man that's more confused than understanding about what he's doing or his own work. And the problem is, he's a likable guy. He's quite blasé about the whole thing, and you can't really tell if he's serious or having a laugh or expense, like this person said. It's really difficult. I think a charismatic character sells more than the artwork. So this person is getting away with lowering the standards of art because he's a likable character. So that's quite curious too, and it makes you wonder about the spirit behind these things. But like I said, the comparison of he doesn't understand where he's coming from. He has the order of the cactuses and the chaos of these block-colored drawings. Let's carry on.
It seems like something, I mean, some people might find, I find you quite deadpan. And I can't quite tell if we can see another self-imposed task here, for example. It's like, you decided to just find some chairs and stack them up. It seems like, they're quite funny.
Well, chairs have to sit down.
Yeah.
Well, to rest.
What's the self-imposed task that governs this work?
Well, it's a pile of plywood which is the same height as the plywood is long. So, when you see piles of wood around, they're often a bit wonky.
So there's a bit of formal purity to that one.
So one side of it is a perfect square. It's a pile of wood, but it's just one that's particularly well piled.
If it wasn't for his easygoing charm, Creed's riddling answers might sound frustrating, even infuriating, which begs the question, is there any substance beneath all the conceptual tomfoolery? Why do we find patterns satisfying? Why do we find patterns satisfying? Are we just creatures of habit? Why do we find patterns satisfying? Are we just creatures of habit? or do we classify the world to help us understand it?
Creed's ballet, work number 1020 at the Traverse, continues his obsession with sequences and scales. In this section, the dancer's movements are entirely restricted to various configurations of the 5 classical positions of the corps de bras, while the accompanying music, played by Creed's band, is doubled, quadrupled, and octupled in speed.
Why do you think this is? Why is this a work of art?
I kind of realise that maybe some people might think that these aren't, but I wouldn't say that they are works of art. No. So,
what would you describe them as then?
Well, the things that I've made. I mean, I wouldn't say they're works of art because I don't know what art is. It's just better. I think it's just better to say that these are things that I've made for people to look at. You know.
And one of the cliches with not much modern contemporary art is people respond and say, "My kid could have done that." Well, in this case, quite literally, someone's kid could have done that.
Aye, could have, but you know, I think children make the best things. You know, I don't like my tendency to want to control things because I think the best work would be a kind of totally uncontrolled splurge. You know, more like a child's drawing. You know, that would be my ideal of a kind of work that I'd like to make. I wish I could make.
It's amazing hearing you talk like that because that sounds like the opposite of what we see here. It's also controlled.
But these works are all just failures.
You don't believe that?
No, I do. Yeah, they're failures to. I want to make something better than this.
That is the worst sell to anyone to come and see my show. It's a bunch of failures. Creed's work has got the economical spare clarity of a beautiful mathematical equation. He makes pieces that are about fundamental aspects of human behaviour, our mania for routine, the innate tendency of humans to try and classify the universe around us. If that all sounds a bit far-fetched and esoteric, it isn't. Creed's work is also very infectious and uplifting and funny. That's something that's quite rare in today's contemporary art scene. And there's something gloriously refreshing about his self-effacing, reflective stance.
What a load of bollocks. So yeah, that's Martin Creed. And I'm going to show you here while I have the chance. I went to an exhibition, so I'll show you some of the pictures I took from the exhibition. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. So this was the first piece you would see. And this is the Harris Museum in Preston. And this is his lights here. Everything is going to be all right. Now, it's curious that the timing of when that was up in Preston on the Harris, Trump had just come into office. So it seemed like the timing was ominous, or like he was trying to say, don't worry, everybody, everything's going to be all right. So that was taken as that by many people. And here's all the art lovers of Preston coming together to see Martin Creed's exhibition in the Harris. I just find it ironic that this is surrounded with some of the most beautiful, intricate, old paintings that you could ever see, really. You know, the amount of detail and effort and time gone into some of these are extraordinary, and they're about to go into and enjoy. Well, you'll see. So go in, and here's the cactuses. I've seen them lined up. And yeah, it is what it is. It's a row of cactuses. There's another angle. And here's some portraits of people. The detail is fascinating in this, isn't it? Here, look at the fine shade, attention to shading you put into this one. Isn't this wonderful? Oh, by the way, this background you see here, this is also a piece of artwork that he's called. It's a bunch of black lines going diagonally on a white background. Here's another portrait. This one's a portrait of a footballer. I hope the footballer wasn't offended. There again. This was literally about the size of a CD. So this is a wonderful one. The lights going on and off. This is one of Creed's best known works, for which he won the Turner Prize in 2001. Using the existing gallery lights and a timer, visitors experience an empty gallery space filled with light for 5 seconds and then plunged into darkness for 5 seconds when the lights go out. Comparing his work to sculpture, he said, "I want to try to strip things down. I didn't know whether to have the lights on or off. But it was kind of an experiment in trying to make something that you don't have to look at, or don't have to look at directly." So he's aspiring to make something that doesn't exist, so whatever. The work has a playful, almost theatrical audacity to it, challenging the visitor's typical gallery experience. He has said that this work was an attempt to make his work more like music. Lights going on and off is an attempt to try and make something that makes itself in front of you, as you watch it. Just like a piece of music makes itself before you as you listen to it. I was trying to make a piece of sculpture more like a piece of music. So basically, this man is a master in the art of bullshitting. And this is something you actually kind of have to learn when you go into the art industry. What you're learning to do is, can you justify the nonsense you've just created with big sounding words? And I was really good at it myself as well. But here's me experiencing this wonderful piece of artwork.
A room with light switches on and off every 5 seconds. Got the whole room to myself.
Lucky me, I had the whole room to myself. It was that fascinating. Here it is going on. Oh, it's off. Oh, it's back on. What a fascinating piece of artwork that is. The amount of time and effort and thought and skill put into that is unprecedented. This man is pushing boundaries, clearly. So yeah, you know, I also saw the some of his neon works here. Don't worry, in lights. That's nice. And here's his coloured pictures he was talking about. Literally just coloured in with felt tip pen. You can even see where the lines join together. Where, you know, that isn't it really annoying when you draw with a felt tip pen and this happens? It used to piss me off anyway. Anyway, he's made a thing out of it. There we go again. Now this is good. Again, the shading is fantastic. So he calls his works, you know, number whatever it is in the sequence of nonsense he throws together. You know, I think he also made a doorknob, a piece of artwork as well. And he's one of those people who just finds an object, says it's art, and puts it in a gallery. Yeah. So we'll go through quickly here. There's a picture of him. And these are all these people taking it deadly seriously, you know, and getting all the selfies and pictures, and one giant circle jerk over intellectual elitism, I guess we'll call it. Yeah, I got into an argument in this very spot here with somebody about the whole situation. I ended up with people surrounding me. Someone recorded the argument, and I was defending the traditionalist objective standards side, and he was arguing the nihilism, no objective standards, everything is art side. It ended anyway with the mayor of Preston shaking my hand and having a talk with me, because he started to watch too, and he said, "Yeah, this is a load of nonsense. I'm just here to open, you know, to cut the ribbon." So as a result of that conversation, I've had a one-to-one meeting with the mayor of my city over defending traditionalism. Either way, we didn't talk after that. Here we go. Where's the free wine? Usually there's free wine at this event. I don't think they had it. Poor standards. Oh, that's one of my drawings of the Nephilim. Sorry guys, we'll turn it off. So yeah, there's Martin Creed's work. I have some videos here I want to show you of the people talking about the introduction before we went into the gallery, and we won't listen to all of this because towards the end, they just start to congratulate one another for putting on a great show and naming names. But the way this man describes Martin Creed is fanatical. It's nonsense, you know, and he's seen things in Creed's work that just is not there. You've heard the guy talk in the other video. You've seen him. He's a troll. He's a joke, you know, and he. But in this video, you'll see Creed couldn't make it to the event, so he left a letter to be read out in this speech you're about to see, explaining how bad he feels about not being there and how sorry he is for the standards of the work he's presenting to you. He says he's admitting, I know this is terrible. Like he was having some kind of conscious breakdown because he's finally realized just how terrible his work actually is and what he's done to the world. You know, how he brought the standards down and inspired a new generation to not bother to learn to draw or paint while getting their degree. You know, so I have hope maybe he's turning around, but we'll listen to this and you can just hear how much these art snobs lick the ass of their idols.
Good evening. The classic acid test question, does this artist's work make you see the world differently, is passed by Martin Creed with flying colours. Looking at Martin Creed's catalogue resulting entitled Works, published by Thames and Hudson in 2010, gives the reader an extraordinary heightened visual clarity as a result of exposure to the artist's remarkable mind. He sees the same things as we see, but he makes magic out of the everyday, out of the commonplace. He's found a way of turning ordinary things, such as written numbers, crumpled paper, and ticking metronomes, not just into the language of art, but into art itself.
So did you hear that? You know, he sees the exact same things we see, but he manages to turn everyday objects that we don't normally consider art into art. My God, how does he do it? It's gibberish. He might sound very well pronounced and uppity about the whole thing, but he's talking nonsense and trying to justify how what would never have been considered art in the past is suddenly now art. So we'll continue with this display of extreme flirting towards Martin Creed's work.
A short list of a few of these extraordinary works he has made gives a flavour of their emotional intensity. A sheet of paper torn off. A sheet of A4 paper crumpled into a ball. A door opening and closing. An automated slamming piano. 39 metronomes beating time, one at every second. The lights going on and off. Runners. Half the air in a given space. The rest of the space half full of balloons. Smiling people. Martin Creed also makes classic works with neon. Here are a few favourites. In neon, hello. In neon, mothers. In neon.
In neon.
Babies. In neon. Feelings. In neon. Words. In neon. People. In neon. Friends.
See, he's just reeling off words that he's put up in neon lights, and this is supposed to be some kind of extravagant, groundbreaking, everybody's get together, focus on this point and take pictures moment. And, you know, all these people who are here are either intellectual left-leaning snobs or young, impressionable students. And those students who look at these scenarios and consider the work of Creed and look at this man glorifying him as some kind of artistic god of progressive talent, well, these students then think all I have to do is be like Martin Creed. And it doesn't encourage them to learn to do anything really talented or productive or skilled. As you'll see, as you've seen from Martin Creed's work. Now, we'll continue with this for a little bit. As it trails off, I'll show you the letter he's left behind and what that is. So let's go.
In neon, love. In neon, coconuts, which we saw on the way up. In neon, our souls. In neon, don't worry. In neon, everything is going to be all right.
You saw that in the Harris at the beginning? Everything is going to be all right.
Martin Creed has shown these works and many others in exhibitions and museums all over the world. Along with painting and sculpture, he has also included music, film, performance, and installations. He's also won the Turner Prize. In 2008, 50 artist rooms were acquired for the nation. In 2009, some 16 of them were exhibited in Tate Modern and the National Galleries of Scotland. I walked around the Tate with Martin Creed. When we reached the third room, Martin said, "I'd really like to be part of this." I put my arm around his shoulder and said, "It would be lovely, Martin, to exhibit your work right across the country." In his great generosity, Martin gave us all the works in artist rooms. All the works, therefore, belong to Tate. Rather, I looked after by Tate and the National Galleries in Scotland, but belong to the country. They belong to everyone in this room. Recently,
well, that's wonderful. You know, all these wonderful objects now belong to the public, and I'm sure millions were spent on these. And the Tate Gallery, and we'll get into the Tate Gallery after this, because I have some pictures from my visit there to the Tate Gallery in Liverpool. And I'll show you just the type of nonsense they put on display there and the agendas they're also pushing involving transhumanism. See, and this is still a conspiracy, child. I haven't forgotten about the truth behind all that stuff. So let's listen to the letter Martin Creed sent to be read out at this exhibition.
I don't know what to say. I feel bad because I don't know what to say. But I think maybe I know I don't know what to say because I feel bad. But that's all right. It's really no biggie. Because that's life. And life's hard. And I usually feel bad. And I think that's why I work. To try to feel better. It's work to live. I can't say I'm happy to be here because I'm not here. And I can't say I'm happy not to be here because I feel bad that I'm not here. But I am looking forward to coming. Sometimes I feel good, but mostly I feel bad. When you're trapped like a human inside yourself, what can you do? I think I want to communicate with other people because I can't bear all the feelings swirling around inside. But I don't know how communication works. I don't think it works directly because every person lives alone in the country of themselves and speaks a different language or dialect based on their own feelings.
Right, so everyone lives alone in a country of themselves and can't communicate with one another because they all have their own language. That is the postmodern worldview. We can't communicate with one another Nothing is true. Everything is permitted and possible. It's all subjective and based on opinions. Therefore, we can't truly navigate the world with an objective standard of reality. And Martin Creed just said that himself, the whole postmodernist trope. I said here it's glorified by all of these people, you know, as though it's the greatest thing to ever happen. And it's nonsense. He says himself, he feels sad. He can't control his emotions. He's confused and he's sorry for the exhibition. And this Martin Creed sounds to me like a very emotionally unstable man, who this rich person we saw talking earlier, this man who runs the Tate or works with the Tate, has encouraged and put into the spotlight. Now, I believe there are agendas at play to encourage this type of philosophy in order to destabilize Western society. This Martin Creed seems like a useful idiot. You know, he probably doesn't even understand why his work's being put in a gallery, but it is because he was selected, because his worldview and his way of being is exactly how they want other people to be, confused and not grounded in any truth. So we'll carry on with the letter here.
So I feel like all you can do is try things out and put things about, make noises and hand signals at the border, and hope it helps. And you might find rhymes and chimes with other people if you're lucky. I hope that everything is going to be all right. I hope that, because everything is not all right. It's a pretty difficult world, but I don't lose hope and I don't lose hate. I hate to feel like this, and I want to feel better. I hate to hate, and I hope to hope. But I still feel bad, and I feel bad about feeling bad, because my brand feels like luxury goods if you're living on the streets or fleeing in a war. And so I would like to say thanks and sorry. I feel very lucky that some of my little dry outs and feelings around have been held along by so many people to such an extent that there can be an exhibition like this here. And I feel bad about it and guilty because although I do sometimes think my work is super, I often, and at one at the same time, think that it's embarrassing and makes me want to vomit. And so I wish to apologise. Thank you very much, and sorry very much. Martin Creed, 26th of January, 2017, work number 2797.
So, you know, that letter is now a piece of artwork. He's numbered it as his, 2,700 and whatever piece. That's how lazy this guy is. A letter he wrote as to why he can't turn up to the opening to his own show is now a piece of artwork. And that's how far and low the standards are. And he says himself, I feel bad that so many people have helped support my tryings out and random stuff I do. It's like he doesn't understand why success is upon him. And, I can understand why he doesn't understand, because I don't think he gets the bigger picture as to how his work is useful in destroying our culture. God, I feel bad for the guy when I start thinking about this. His philosophy is destructive to art. Yeah, he is the one that rich people are paying to put into the galleries. Very sinister, very conspiratorial, and very postmodern. He says my own work, sometimes I think it's superb, but other times it makes me want to vomit. And that's a piece in his exhibition, which you can see here, where it's just a few video screens of people vomiting. Oh, there they go. I will. Look at this one here. She's trailing her vomit along the floor and walking along, making a line out of it. This is artwork now. Videos of people throwing up. That's art now. That's what's applauded, and this is what people are encouraged to emulate. And this is what people are told you need to do in order to be successful in the art industry. No more than selling out in the music industry. you know, you have to sell your soul, it seems. Now, going on to the Tate Gallery, I saw Tracy Emin's bed, you know, and this is another infamous one where a woman put her bed stained with period blood and used condoms and all sorts of shite in the middle of a gallery and called it art. Seeing it with my own eyes after so many years of studying this, I don't know, it made me want to kill myself. It was just ridiculous. But this is art now, people. This is observable art. This is my footage. I've seen it myself. I know it's there. Nonsense is in the galleries. You know, I like standards in my artwork. You know, I like talent. I like to see the details. I like to see the thought. I like to see the history and the symbology and the ideas embedded into it. This is hollow. This is very hollow. Now, in the Tate, that was in the Tate Gallery, Tracy Emin's bed. This was also in the Tate Gallery. And pushing the transhumanist agenda, this is two robots who are having an existential crisis with one another, trying to understand who they are, where they are, what these screens around them are trying to teach them, and whether they should think it's valid or not. While there's some kind of overarching female god telling you how the robots are feeling. It's very strange. I think this ties in with the agenda of pushing androids and robots, where we're seeing transhumanism go today. So, yeah, you can see these little robots. I think they're quite popular in Japan. Moving along, and they follow circuits and communicate with each other.
We're time travelers. Okay, I can see why I was suffering from oppositional time disorder. Oh, I had a cousin. I think I have one. I merely that's a serious condition. I don't think it's contrasted. Thoughts? We need better storylines with you guys.
Yeah, so it goes on in the same grain. You talk to screens, and you know, crazy things happen. The fountain here goes off at one point. It's nonsense. It's done in that artistic, what does it all mean? It's so cryptic type of way, but it's definitely pushing some kind of agenda there, and it was disturbing to see, really. And there's other images here from the Tate Gallery. I mean, we can look at this wonderful piece. A bunch of tights stuffed with nothing onto a chair. Look at the detail in this, eh? Look at that. Isn't that deep? Groundbreaking, beautiful. Well, it's not beautiful, it's ugly. That's the problem, and that's exactly what they're going for. They're turning arts into something that's just disgusting to the eyes. And this reflects on our culture. This reflects how we progress as a society. Here's a Picasso piece, which was quite eye-catching, though. I do like this. But to see such tripe mixed with the greats is confusing. I don't think something like this is on par with, I don't know, a painting like this, should we say. Even though this is quite deconstructive, you know, it's about deconstructing an image, there's still some objective standards to this which we can instantly see and understand. Compared to this, which looks like something I could create when I was 10 with watercolor on an A4 piece of paper. I mean, this is a classic Lowry scene, and you know, objectively speaking, it's beautiful. The way it shows the industrial landscape of you know, the 19th and the 20th, early 20th century. It's historically grounded. This is just a piece of corrugated rusted metal put on the wall in the same room. Here's a black canvas. You thought the white canvas I showed you was crazy. Look at this one. It's just a black canvas. So edgy, so new. This is great. These are classic paintings. What's the artist's name again? Biblically grounded artist depicting scenes from the Bible. You know, the encounter with the serpent, with the devil. When art's meaning was symbolic on a whole different level. We don't see this anymore. From Dante's Divine Comedy. This was from 1826. And then we have this in comparison, you know, the bed. It's sad to see where we've come, what we've come to. These are beautiful, actually, these paintings. When I saw them, they were quite impressive to look at. That's quite a famous esoteric painting. That scene. There's a lot of geometry hidden in this. I remember doing a study on it. Same for this one. This is supposed to be Nebuchadnezzar, who was banished from Babylon to wander as a beast for a short time before coming back and accepting God. That's William Blake's work. Blake is a very famous artist. And this is his style. The classics, you know, when there were standards and art meant something, a transcendent message was there. Now we have a picture of a guy holding a sign saying, "I'm desperate," just in the room opposite. Look at this. I don't even know what that's supposed to be, but you know it's wrong. Yeah, so that's the entrance to the Tate Gallery in Liverpool. There's the docks on the side. And that's where all that stuff is stationed. It's a mess, guys. It's an absolute mess. The art industry is completely and totally messed up. It's upsetting. It's shocking, you know. And, you know, as a treat, let me show you some photography I've been working on recently, which I would like to share with you guys. Let me know what you think. Not that one. Let me find it here. Sorry it's taking so long to find this. Here we go. So lately I've been taking a lot of pictures of nature, and I think I might try and sell some of these. I actually have one of these up in the Harris right now. But these are some of the pictures I've been taking. You know, I've tried to get away from painting and drawing because, I don't know, the ideas I come up with and the things I paint, I'm just kind of, I've done it my entire life. I want to play with photography for a while. And me, I see photography as it's plagiarism. You know, I'm just framing God's artwork, essentially. And that's how I see it. So I kind of feel guilty for taking credit for some of these photos sometimes. It's not like I actually did much other than click a button. But many photographers out there will try and convince you it's something deeper than that. I guess my deep message is, well, it's just God's creation, man. Look how beautiful it is. I mean, look at that tree sparrow. Robin, it's that time of year, guys. They're everywhere, these things, where I live. See, this is something a lot of conspiracy theorists need to kind of understand as well, you know. Go out for a walk every now and then and just look at how amazing the world is. It's not all doom and gloom. There's some truly beautiful or inspiring things to see in this world. You know, and I would hope to see the same thing when I walk into a gallery, but it used to be that way. Objective standards still exist. It's just those who say they don't exist have all the power right now. I reckon it'll turn around. I reckon when people, you know, begin to see what art can be once more, or go out and travel and see what art once was, once they get a little bit of knowledge, hopefully most people can see through the tripe that's being thrown at us today and told is fantastic. clouds. Clouds are a fascinating one too. They look like paintings in the sky to me. It looks like they were made with oil paint or something. You know, and the way rocks form too. The natural design in things is awe-inspiring. There's a dried up waterfall. The dunnock. See, birds are really hard to photograph. They're not the most willing of subjects. They move a lot. That's something I've been enjoying trying to do. So, fireworks, bonfire night was recently. Some shots of some fireworks I managed to get. You know, the form and the light in these are really interesting, but it's a common thing a lot of photographers do when they can. So it's not really something I would consider as, you know, worthy of being considered art. This is more craft, I guess. And a sparkler as well. What do you think, guys? Do you think I should sell some of these? I mean, I've got them printed off recently, and I'm going to frame a few because I like them myself. But I'm considering putting them up for sale. Maybe some of the guys on this channel might be interested. I don't know. I mean, I have the audience. I might as well offer them something. Yeah, these are things I enjoy. I mean, I got lucky with the timing there. There's a little green fly, baby green fly, was scurrying underneath the adult one. I find insects fascinating as well. They're like tiny machines that are just so intricately, perfectly designed, and they for such a small entity, they have such ability and knowledge like ingrained into them, and life, you know, life ingrained into them. The smallest things and the largest things. It's incredible. You know, just the skills a spider has, let's say, to make a web. You know, and the psychedelic patterns that appear on these things are amazing. And then we have the moon. Well, this is one for the flat earthers, isn't it? I mean, what's going on with the moon, guys? Here's a photograph I've taken of it. You know, I can definitely photograph it. It looks solid enough. You know, it looks like a sphere, but you know, I agree. I've seen it do some strange things myself. And the firework there. This is the corner of my roof. I figured, you know, you could put some cheesy inspirational quote at the top of there, like a life can grow in the most, I don't know, a barren of places or something. That's just an idea. There's your time lapse of the pole star. Bit of experimenting. And there's a bird flying over a rocky, cloudy mountain. I need to get back more into painting and drawing as well. I mean, photography is cool and all, but like I said, it's too easy for me to take credit. I feel sometimes, you know, people might hate me for saying stuff like that. I'm not trying to undermine the fantastic photographers out there, but for me, you know, I do need to get back into my roots of using a basic pencil and paper. You know, but the world is certainly beautiful. The stars are incredible. You know. The way the landscapes of this world are awe-inspiring to me, and I've never ceased to be amazed. You know, and I think if more people could see stuff like this again, you know, and people have done better than I could ever do, like better quality cameras, you know, just see how amazing the world is. But when they go to the galleries, you know, hopefully they'll be underwhelmed by the hideous monstrosities they're being presented and told are beautiful. If they can understand that no, beauty does exist. It's not subjective to your, there's my dog. It's not subjective to your opinion. You know, objective standards of beauty are real. No matter what any postmodern ideologue wants to tell you, the standards need to be put back into the art industry. People need to be critiqued and told that what they're saying and what they're creating is nonsense. If you don't do that, then any old shit will pass as brilliant. I mean, look at the effort people put into making walls hundreds of years ago. You know, and that's without cement. You know, even that is aesthetically pleasing, and they had an eye for detail at the time. This is what I like, seeing the stars streak there with the sun setting. That's a good example of the pole star. I didn't realize just how much they moved in such a small space, you know, and how the circular motions were made until you see it in a time lapse. I never really had the concept of how the stars moved above me as clearly as I get it now. And now I can find that star in the middle instantly. I know where it is instantly now. You know, now I've seen an example of it through this time lapse experiment. So I'm very thankful for that. And it is aesthetically pleasing to look at. So yeah, guys, let me know if you're interested in it. If I put these online on a shop, I'll post a link on the channel. If you guys don't care about that, just stick it to Conspiracy Paul. You know, I'll do that too. But it's my channel. I'll do what I want. But let me know if you guys are interested in getting any prints of these. Maybe we can work something out. Some of them are just off the cuff, nothing. You know, some of them are works that I think have potential to sell. I'm not afraid of being critiqued as well, guys, so don't worry about that. I made that clear earlier, I'm sure. Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm summarizing here. This is all I really have to say about the whole art industry. I think I've shown you guys quite a lot of things to think about. I'll try and leave some links, you know,